And we do computer support. We do a lot with backup disaster recovery. We also do web development, social media. In fact, we have a social media seminar coming up in a month, I think.
Yep.
Rich?
14th.
So if anyone wants to sign up for that, now I've got a couple of followers now here in the group, so I appreciate that. Okay, so let's talk about backup disaster recovery. My first question to you is I'd like us all to go around and I want you to say your name and either what you want to get out of today or what you're most concerned about with backup disaster recovery. So Peter, we'll start with you, and I'm just going to take notes here.
Yep. Well, I was a long-term client of EZSolution in a previous position, and I am beginning a new position on Monday, and it is similar situation, it's a medical practice, and they are actually moving into a brand new system, and when I show up on Monday, I'll be responsible for taking a look at security and tech support. And as I told Tom, our disaster recovery plan at Allergen Asthma Center was pick up the phone and call EZSolution. So now I need to have a new plan.
Needs a new plan. Still, just use the old plan, but
Yeah, about the old plan with
new plan.
new system.
Sounds good. Jeff.
I guess just looking to see if we're doing what we should be doing as far as backups and security.
Okay. Great. That's a good one. Sandy.
Basically the same what Jeff just said, and just, what happens if there is a disaster?
Yeah, that big what if is a little terrifying, isn't it? You try not to think about it because it's easier to sleep at night. Julie.
We have a small company and I do back up, but there's not a network. It's just kind of a bunch of computers and want to know options.
Yeah, needs are options. All right. Lewis.
I just came to hear about what the hot new technology for back.
All right. What's hot? Patty.
Well, I basically know nothing, so starting from scratch, so anything I can learn is great.
All right. So Patty knows nothing.
Nothing.
We find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I found that very hard. You look very intelligent. All right. Your name, thanks. Steve.
We're evaluating different BDR solutions and just wanted to see what you guys had to offer. Your solution set was.
You're a technical guy, aren't you?
Maybe.
You knew the word BDR, which is not actually a word, so awesome. That's so exciting. Tanner.
We're just looking into online backups, get rid of our tapes. We don't have to worry about the tapes.
Yeah, replace those tapes. They're torturous. You're going to say the same as him, aren't you?
We online wasn't really an option until a couple months back when we upgraded our internet connection in the office. So now that we have that connection, our options have expanded a little bit.
Okay, more options. All right, so we just created 2 pages of data, right? Essentially, I asked you what was going on, and you gave me answers. We created data. And I just destroyed it. This is what happens when you have a disaster, right? You might not be able to get this back. So $100 to anybody who can recreate everything exactly as our own page.
I think we have a backup over here.
You can't use my backup. Right? You can't. And that's everybody's biggest fear, right? Is that I can't recreate my data. So, Patty, if you lost your accounting data, what would happen?
Yeah, problems.
Right, could you recreate it? I'm not even sure I could recreate a day's worth of accounting data. Right? It's terrifying. All right, so, we already did that slide. All right, so my question is this everybody's current backup and disaster recovery plan? I love Dilbert. I figured you will enjoy it as well as I did.
Our disaster recovery plan goes something like this. Someday we hope to have a budget.
It's funny, every time. I've seen it 200 times. Right? That's about what we end up doing. We say, oh, well, we'll just, when we have disaster, we just run and scream and panic. And a lot of times as business owners, we say, well, somebody else has that covered. Well, my IT guy has that covered. I don't need to worry about it. But your IT guy might not have it covered. Okay. Sad statistic is that 80% of all companies who experience a significant data loss, they're not going to be in business. And that's the big fear. You know, it's hard enough to stay in business. You look at statistics as to, you know, if you make it the first 5 years, that's a huge landmark. If you make it 10 years, oh my goodness, you're doing great. But, you know, that's just business practices. But this is, if you can't restore the data, you know, you have all those invoices that you created, and you lost them. You have no idea who owes you money. You know, if your business is like mine, you have some level of accounts receivable that you're trying to collect on, right? If you don't know what that is, oh, you know, that's stressful. Okay. Tape drives. Who has tape drives? A couple of you said you had tape. So this is, when's it going to fail? Not if it's going to fail. Think about it. It's a tape. It's running around. Remember when we all had tapes in our cars? Remember the old 8-track tapes? Right? What happens the longer they stayed in your car?
The worse they sounded,
The worse they sounded. Why they sound bad?
because they wore out.
They wore out. They stretched, right?
Right.
The heating and cooling process of being in your car was detrimental. Just the running it through the head just wore them out. Well, that's what happens to your tapes. You get wore out. So you're supposed to replace them every year. You know, that's what the manufacturer says, right? And guys, do we replace them every year? No. We don't, right? There's nothing wrong with them. They're still going in and out. Right? Okay, who's lost data? Nobody's willing to admit it. Come on, Steve. Really? Nothing? Okay.
Not yet.
I've decided that I'm the most unlucky person on the planet. Because I'm literally, if a disaster can happen, honestly, it happens to me. I've definitely lost data in the past when I had tape drives. Okay, so you have a couple options as to how you're doing. Everybody's doing some level of backup now, right? We're doing something. So nobody's in the, oh my gosh, I'm doing nothing. Anybody doing to CD? Or little jump drives? Nobody? You doing the jump drives?
I changed out external hard drives and like a QuickBooks on the jump drive.
Yeah, so you're trying to like the dual approach. That's good. Some of us have tape. Anybody have external hard drives that kind of automatically back up? Anybody have anything more sophisticated than that? Anybody have a cloud solution right now? Backs up on the internet. You do right now? Okay, good. All right, so let's take a quiz.
We're still going to tapes.
And you're still doing tapes. That's good. All right, so
Just once a week, though.
once a week on tape, just in case, just for good measures. All right, let's pass those out. We're gonna, oops, I need an extra one. All right, so you write down the number that applies to you, and we'll see how we're doing. So we share a little bit, but now let's see how it's harder. Okay, so how much of your data, how much of your server data do you back up? Some of it, most of it, all of it. The last part is if you back it up, not just the data, but the operating system and all the software. So put a number there. All right, our next one is how often do you back up? Hopefully no one puts never. Monthly, talked to somebody yesterday, backs up monthly. Weekly, daily, or it backs up constantly throughout the day, you don't even look at it.
Can I tell you I know nothing?
You don't know.
We have an IT person, but I kind of want to know what he does. So he says we have carbonate that does stuff, so.
Okay. Sandra Chicole's in your office?
No, that's production, that's all, production lights are analyzed.
Okay.
Remember we talked, yeah. So when when you
Okay.
say that you lose stuff, they say
You-
just did, so.
I know, it's infinitely painful, isn't it?
Well, and I called you on Monday for because I wasn't there on Friday.
All right, how long do you keep your backups? Do you have backups for the last few days, weeks, months? How long? If you deleted a file and didn't realize it for 2 months, could you restore that? Do you keep it that long? All right, and you can, and which kind of backup solution do you have there? Now, the next one. Do you take it off-site? This is the tricky one, because a lot of people, because it happens, right? You switch the tape out, what do? You stick it on top of the server. And when the building burns down, what happens? Your tape burned down too. Alright, so write that one down. I won't make you feel too bad right now, that's why we're not answering out loud. Okay, how often do you do a test restore? So, you're changing out that tape or that flash drive, or it's going out in the cloud. How often do you do a test restore to make sure that it's actually doing what you think it's doing? That's the scary one, right? You're wasting your time if it never gets on the tape, and I've had that happen. It's painful, right? All right, so
I want to know if that's personally or to a client.
personally, well, think about it. I mean, it hasn't been that long since more sophisticated devices have been out. So the solution you had that was available to you is a tape. And if backup exec has a little hiccup and some files are not getting backed up, they're not getting backed up. So the higher you get to 21, the better shape you're in. I won't make you share. It's okay. Okay, so how is data lost? So I'm talking about you lost data. Well, how do you lose data? So let me tell you a little story. So this is probably 5-6 years ago. We got a call from a local oil company. So they deliver oil to your house, and they called and said, "Oh my gosh, our servers crashed, and we can't seem to get it off the drives." And we said, "Well, do you have a backup?" So they weren't a client of ours. Do you have a backup? He said, "Well, no, see, our IT guy told us we didn't need to have a backup because we had mirrored hard drives." So in other words, in their servers, they have 2 hard drives, and they make pictures of each other all day long. Well, that's all well and good, but when the RAID controller fails and both those hard drives go down and corrupt, they can get their data. Okay, so we sent that out to a data restoration company, and for $8,000 and 9 days of not having their data, they restored it. Okay, they didn't lose data, but could you be in business for 9 days without any of your data? I mean, the cost of $8,000, yes, that's painful. The 9 days is more painful, right? And that's just a real story. Okay, then there's just human error, right? We can just accidentally delete a file. We've all accidentally deleted a file, right? It's not really just me, hopefully. All right, then you can have a disgruntled employee. So do you ever have an employee who gets mad at you, and then you let them go, and you're stupid like I am, and you don't follow them back to their desk and watch them pack their stuff up, and they jump on their computer and delete every file they have, including their Outlook profile. Now, if you can't restore that, that sucks. All right. Then there's criminals, right? Some of you came to my hacker seminar last time, so I appreciate that. You can get viruses, and hardware can just get stolen. So a prominent accounting company in Lancaster County, 5-6 years ago, the IT guy was changing those tapes out, right? Sits them in the front seat of his car. Stop, sit, turkey hill. All of the data sitting on the seat. Somebody opens the door, takes tapes out. Accounting firm had to notify all their clients that this event happened.
That sucks too.
That sucks. You get all this media. How many clients do you lose because now they don't trust you? Because think about it. What does your accountant have on those CDs and on those drives? All your confidential information. Peter works with medical practices. What do they have on those tapes? All your medical history. And everybody's heard of HIPAA, right? The rules about you got to sign everything off and who can get access to what. But medical practices have to protect a whole new different thing. And what is it? It's $1,500 per record that gets lost or stolen. The opening fines are $500,000 or $1.5 million. Right? Horrible stuff. All right, so this is a virus that hit my business last week. One of my employees visited a website. Not a bad website, just a regular website she was doing work on. Not one of the sites we host. And the site was hacked. And this wonderful virus, it's called Cryptolocker. And what Cryptolocker does is it looks at all the drives that you have access to. So like in your network, you know how many Mac drives you have? It quickly crawls through and encrypts all those files. Now, thank goodness that employee didn't have a lot of access to stuff, but it encrypted thousands and thousands of files. And then what they do is they say, you know what? For $300, we'll give you the unencrypt key. So it's a whole new type of criminal. Now we have ransomware. Isn't that nice of them? Okay. Well, we didn't pay the $300. We restored from backup. Had we not had the backup, would you have paid the $300? Maybe yes, maybe no. $300 is going to go, what, $20,000 in a short period of time? They know that it can get you. Painful. All right, sometimes software just comes, right? Our SQL databases just blow up from time to time. That stuff just happens. Accounting packages, QuickBooks, sometimes you do the update and you're like, why did I just do that update? Everything's wrong. Microsoft gets you to do those patches. Sometimes those patches aren't exactly correct, you know. Disasters happen. Do fires happen in Lancaster County? Do we have lots of fire departments? My service manager is a firefighter. Businesses burn down. Lightning strikes, right? Good lightning. Yes, my servers have hit by lightning already. Tell me, I haven't had to find it, but that's next. All right. Floods. Floods happen, right? In Mannheim, we just had floods. In fact, what was it, 2 weeks ago? We got all that rain. I wasn't even in town, but of course, my service manager, firefighter, is also the
emergency management coordinator.
He's the emergency management coordinator for Mannheim. He sends me an email, I'm in Nashville. Tell him I'm not going to work tomorrow because it's raining and it's Mannheim's going to flood again. Okay. Right? So floods. Sprinkler head's my favorite, right? How many of you walk in your server room, look up, there's a sprinkler head. Now, let me ask you, how do water and electric mix together? Servers, they just don't like that stuff, right? But, so, let's look for sprinkler heads. Hurricanes happen, right? Tornadoes happen. Okay, it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Joplin, Missouri. Everybody remember those tornadoes? Devastated the entire city. Buddy of mine, his business, completely gone. Pile of sticks, literally. He drove up and said, where's my building? Oh, it's that pile of sticks. Look, there's my server sitting under the rubble. Most of his clients are medical practices. They all use the backup solution we're going to talk about today. They were all back up and running within 48 hours?
48 hours.
Amazing, amazing stuff. So we don't get tornadoes here very often, but we do get other. Okay, other issues. Those tapes just get too old and we're too lazy to buy new ones because, well, let's face it, they're expensive. The data's just not on the tape or the drive. That's really one of the most common things we see. Is that you think it's going there, you're not doing a test restore, or you have so much data, oh, I didn't realize it wasn't back in that server. Just not testing it. And then they'll say I'm not taking that data off site, which is so. Okay, cost of downtime. So, we know it's painful. We'll make it more painful. So what's this stuff cost you? Okay, so the first question on the sheet is how long could you be down? How long could you be down before it had a significant impact on your business? Could. Well, you decide. This is a business process decision that says, I have a downtime tolerance of whatever it is. It might be in a medical practice, it might be an hour. It might be half a day. It might be a day. You might say, listen, it doesn't really matter. I could be down for a week and I'd be fine. So now I'm not talking about losing stuff. I'm talking about how long could your business be down before it's a huge, huge problem for you. There's no right answer here. This is all just what makes more sense for your business. Okay? Anybody at an hour? Anybody have to say, yeah, an hour is about all I can tolerate? How about half a day? You're about a half a day? Yeah, I bet you're a half a day. Anybody a full day? You're down for a day, it's okay. 2 days? Who's the longest here? 5 days?
I can easily do days.
You could do days?
We could do days.
You could do days?
That's in 3 days.
3 days? Okay, we've got that's good. All right. So, your server died today. How long would you be down? What do you think is the business process right now, number of days that you would be down? Jot that down. All right, so let's look at what would that process be to get you back up and running. All right, the first thing that has to happen is you have to figure out that your server's dead. Right? Now, depending on your backup solution, you or your internal IT team or your outsourced IT team, they're going to work on that for a period of time. Now, sometimes it's really obvious, but a lot of cases it's not. So your IT guy is fighting, trying to get you back up. Maybe that's 8 hours, maybe that's 24 hours, right? So that's step one. All right, so once your IT company decides your server's dead, Peter, we got to buy a new one. To get a new server in, it's not like servers, just sit on shelves at Staples. It doesn't really work that way, right? Say anywhere from 8 to 10 days. If you wanted to get a server in the month of December from Dell, you're looking at 2 weeks. Does it, Dave?
Sometimes 3 weeks.
Okay, now your IT company, maybe they have a junker in their closet, they can kind of limp you along, maybe. Right? Then you have to get the operating system on. You have to get all your applications on there because, and you have all those license keys, right? To reinstall all that stuff. Tanner's laughing. Right? You gotta have all that. So that might take a day.
If it doesn't get destroyed.
Yeah, if it wasn't destroyed in the fire, right? Exactly. Okay, so best case, 3 days. Worst case, 16. Right? That's reality. So what we need to make sure is that the business expectation that you have for how long you can tolerate being down matches the solution that you have in place to have it work when you're down. Scary? Julie's like, oh my gosh. All right, so let's look at what it would cost. So if you have $1 million in payroll, that's about $4,000 per day in payroll. What would you have in lost revenue? What would you have in just re-entering stuff? So if you had to re-enter your county data, your business data, do you have lawsuits? Your claim on your errors and omissions insurance, right? Because when you put through a claim, you have a high deductible anyway, but once you put through a claim, what do they do to your rate? And what kind of damage does it do in lost reputation? I'm sure there are other costs. So there's more than the cost of just buying a new server, paying the company to get you back up and running. The soft costs are what kill you. All right, so let me tell you another story. So we had a trucking company, and they were not on our sophisticated solution. They were on they had tape backup, rate controller died. It took a week to get a new server, and after that we had permissions issues. Because on tape, you're not backing up the whole server, you're just backing up the files. They essentially had downtime in 10 days. Stressful stuff. Our solution is by a company called Downtime. They actually made the Fortune 5, the Inc.'s fastest growing companies in the country. They were in the first 500, I believe they were in the top 50, weren't they, Rich?
Right.
Okay, these guys are growing like cats and dogs. All they do is back up. So I want to explain this in a really bizarre fashion so that you understand the technology and how this works. So, you're all going to participate, at least most of you are going to participate. Peter, you, my friend, are the server, so why don't you face sideways so everybody knows that you're the server. Okay. Lewis, Peter, once you connect to Lewis, okay, your wires. Lewis is the workstation, so you represent all the computers in the office. I don't have a file, I don't have a picture of that. All right, sorry about that. All right, everybody knows Lewis is the workstation. All right. blue wire. This is relatively wireless, but it's just so that you see kind of, you, Julie, are the internet. I know, isn't that exciting?
Very exciting.
All right. And we will make, there we go, Julie, Jeff, you are the Datto G series.
We're connected, Jeff.
We're all connected.
Yeah.
I'm wrong with that. Dave's like, what are you doing, Tom? That's not how that works.
We gotta go direct to the server.
We're directly connected there. All right. He's like, I thought you could explain this. You've done it 30 times. All right. So the server is connected to the back of the device. We're going to call Datto G. The server is also connected to all workstations. Connected to the internet. And Sandy, you be the cloud.
Congratulations, Miss Cloud.
You're the cloud. All right, so all day long, Peter sends his files to Jeff. So he's doing
Data.
data, everything. So Lewis
Data and,
Lewis makes a change to a file. He sends it, saves it on Peter. And Peter sends it to Data. Okay. Peter and the Data have the exact same files. They have the exact same applications, everything on it. Okay. Now, I was totally wrong, don't I, Dave? I do. Lewis, you keep connected to Peter. There you go. He's gonna play jump rope here. So, in the event that Peter dies and we need to recover those files, we have them right here. Now, we still have to buy a new server, right? Okay. And we still need to get those files on the new server. So in our example here of the amount of downtime, that we're going to have, we still have the first one, we still have to figure it out, and we still have to buy a new server. The time we're going to save is the amount of prep. Because Jeff has a perfect picture of Peter. So we don't have to install applications anymore, because we have it. We can restore it locally, or say the building burns down and both Peter and Jeff go. Well, out in the internet, we have a copy of this. Okay, so the data company keeps a picture of Jeff on the East Coast and the West Coast. So in the event that something happens to Jeff, we can still get those files. And they're literally going to send us a hard drive. Because the more data you have, we're not going to download that all off the internet. In fact, the first time we take a picture, that Jeff takes a picture of Peter, we send that in a drive offsite. Because to do that online, you have a terabyte of data, it's not going to do that quick. Okay. All right, so this is a replacement for your tape drives. You haven't really solved the problem of I can be back up and running in a day. You solve the problem of I don't have to manually change tapes, and that it's there, and it's encrypted, and it's HIPAA compliant and PCI compliant, and I don't have to install files.
and how often is this done? I mean, I understand going to Datto G, but how often does Datto G go to the cloud? Is that
Every day.
also
Every day.
almost real time?
Yeah.
No, not real time, it's not during the day, it's at night.
Okay,
Says it on
so
the
once a
website.
day, it's a daily backup, okay.
Okay. So, our next thing, Jeff, you have more personality disorder. You are now, so put the data away, you're not the Datto G anymore. We have now turned you in to the Cirrus Lite. Okay. So everything works the same way, except if something happens to Peter, Jeff switches in the cloud. So Sandy, you did the cloud. You're the hero. You are now the server. You became Peter. Okay.
So
Now,
that means it's immediately accessible.
it's not immediate, but within a day, all that transition can happen. Because to make Sandy Peter, we need to tell Lewis and all his gang not to look at Peter, but to look at Sandy.
Oh, okay.
So that's gonna take a little bit of time. But you're up in a day in that solution. Makes sense? Now, you're not gonna be super fast. You're not gonna be, it's not like you're sitting, right next to Peter and Peter's giving you the files. It's gonna be a little slower. But if your building burns down, your users can now operate from home.
With or without, like, remote desktop?
What was that?
With or without remote desktop?
You mean if somebody's remoting in, or do you mean you're gonna remote? We're gonna point the IP addresses to the cloud, so, you're not gonna be using remote desktop there. You're saying if people are remote desktop being typically remoting into your server,
Right.
what happens?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can repoint them as well.
No.
Yeah.
You don't need that, it'd be the internet connection.
What's that?
It'd be the internet connection.
Internet connection is all you need, yeah.
Correct.
You're just gonna be repointing where it looks. You're gonna physically be spinning it up in the cloud, so it's essentially the server then is up in the cloud, it's on somebody else's server, you're just repointing where everybody's looking.
So it's basically a virtual copy of your server with all the account credentials and domain
That's correct.
privileges.
That's correct. The technical term for the IT guys, it's called virtualization. So that's exactly what it is.
And the way that the backup is tested is it is actually spun up every night, whether it's the G, the Cirrus, or the Cirrus Lite, or the Cirrus, it's spun up every single night to know that everything's loading and everything's working properly.
So we're doing tests all the time. Okay, so let's upgrade Jeff again. And now we're gonna call you the Cirrus. The difference between the Cirrus and the Cirrus Lite is if something happens to Peter, Jeff becomes Peter. Or if something happens to Jeff and Peter, Sandy becomes Peter. So now what we did was that downtime and repointing IP addresses. If something happens to Peter and your building's fine and Jeff's okay, within a couple hours he's the server. So I've now met your business expectation of having 2 hours downtime. It's really the time it takes to assess the problem, switch a few things, and make Jeff the server.
And you'll still need at some point to replace the
We're still gonna have to replace the server. But we didn't lose any data, and we didn't go down.
Okay, because the Data G, the Cirrus Lite, or the Cirrus is a physical device. It's a computer that sits next to the server. Looks just like that. Well, I'm hitting it up on the screen there. So it's going to sit right next to the server, so it can act and operate as your server. But yes, it is not a full-time replacement. It's just it's a stopgap until you get that new server in to put it into place.
Yeah,
It's on site.
It's on site. This is a hardware device. All three of these are they're hardware devices on site, sending it off site on your behalf without you having to switch those tapes around or those hard drives. Yes, sir.
So if your server would die, do you need to replace the same hardware, or
That's the beauty of it.
bare metal fashion?
That's a great question because let's face it, you can't ever buy another Peter that's exactly like Peter. I can buy a server, right? But it's going to be dissimilar hardware. It restores to dissimilar hardware. It's huge. It's a great
And
question.
applications will run
You got it.
as expected.
You got it.
Now, what happens to those in fires or floods or whatever, if they're physical devices in your building?
The cloud-based version is going to take effect. And so that only happens. The cloud option is only available in the Cirrus Lite and the Cirrus. So if you just have the Data G, we're not going to be operating. We're going to get those files shipped back to you to restore.
Now, the Cirrus, as you said, if you have a terabyte of information, will they then send a hard copy of, okay, so it's not, you don't have to do it through the internet now.
That's correct. Yeah, they overnight it.
Okay.
They overnight it. Tanner.
I have two questions. In the case of a fire, your whole building was burnt down. First of all, very few people are taking their computers home. You might have a couple laptops that were taken home. You would need a terminal server in that case to even be able to function. Because pointing to another IP address, people aren't going to have their accounting software on their home computer. So for them to be able to work, they would have to at least, you'd almost have to have a terminal server up there in the cloud as well to be able to function. You know, you get what I'm saying?
They don't answer that.
Yeah, I mean, if the building burns down, you know, you're probably not even gonna have your software CD, so then you have to download the software, but if you're completely down, you need to be up and operable in a certain amount of time, you're probably gonna go to Staples, Ultimax, buy a bunch of laptops, try to download as much software as you can, get it on, then repoint that piece. So, yeah, if it's a complete catastrophe like that and you need to be up and running, the quickest thing is gonna be able to just go out, buy a bunch of computers, slap as much software on as you can, repoint to the cloud and back up and running. So yeah, that is a great, you know, example, because like you said, the PCs burn, the server burns, software, license keys, everything burns in the building, which is actually a great example, because if you don't have a backup or don't have the virtualization, everything just burnt and you have nothing. Most people don't even have records of their software keys or licenses or copies of the CD, so you actually lose everything. Where with this, at least you can then buy a couple PCs, download some of the software, and get repointed to the server in the cloud.
Or your users at home, from their home PC.
Yeah, or from home PC.
Second question was, Data G is also bare metal backup?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Yeah, all of them are. It's called a bare metal backup. It means that you can restore all that files to a different piece of hardware. Because you can never buy the exact same configuration, because chances are pretty good your server isn't 6 months old. And even 6 months, yeah, good.
They're outdated.
They're outdated instantly. Okay, good questions. All right, let's talk about what this stuff costs, right? Because I'm sure you're all thinking, oh my gosh, what's this stuff cost, right? Oh, how would I do it? All right, so the G series, they're based, the cost is based on how big the device is. So the more data you have, the more expensive it becomes. That kind of makes sense. We have one of these devices deployed and it's 40 terabytes of storage. So that's like 15 servers. It's a ton. It's huge, huge environment. Okay, this is basing it on that you have about 250 gigs of data, the 500 gig of storage. So they double it. So whatever you have, you take it in half, and that's your number. The device itself is $1,200, and your monthly offsite storage is $100. Okay, that's for the G. The Cirrus Lite, where you can virtualize out in the cloud, can become a server. The device price goes up a little bit. Monthly price goes up a little more. Okay. And then with the Cirrus, device price goes up a little bit, and your storage goes up. So the more sophisticated device, the more it costs. So that kind of makes sense, right?
Is there a sense, now, are these mutually exclusive? So you would not have the G and the Cirrus?
More than likely, no.
Okay.
You would have to have a really big server network to have multiple devices.
Okay.
Yeah. So Steve, you might. I don't know how big your network is.
Is this a one-to-one correspondence, so one device versus one server?
No.
There's that.
No, some of them will back up, can back up to 9 servers or 12 servers. Yeah, otherwise they get really costly. Okay, so, other questions, what was your biggest takeaway?
Can you do the cloud backup without a device?
No.
I don't think we have a device. We have
It-
virtual servers though.
With the data, it is device dependent. I'm sure there are other cloud solutions that there's no device on site.
Yeah, you would actually you have to purchase the device in order for this to work. There's other software platforms out there, but then you're relying on your server and the software on it to actually back it up too, so. That's another level.
Peter, in his past company that he was at, we had the Cirrus in place. One day, the Exchange server died, I think, on a Sunday, and we turned on the Cirrus to have the Cirrus replace the Exchange server. So that when those doctors walked in the office on Monday morning, there was no difference for them. They had no idea. That gave us a lot of time to replace that server. So I think you had told us you estimated that a day of downtime was like $14,000 that cost.
Yeah, it would have been huge.
if I may, just give my 2 cents. With the work that I do, I hear this off and on through the different marketing areas. And to my experience, you were one of the first ones, or the first one in the area to really start doing this and promoting this. And it's only now that maybe a few other people are trying to do something similar. And you have always stood out to me with it. Above, you know, you guys are there locally to talk to regularly, which is always huge. But you're the first one I think of when I'm recommending people for this.
Yeah, most IT companies should have some solution that's similar to this. This is really newer stuff. I mean, this isn't stuff that you saw in the small, mid-sized businesses 5 years ago. It's now affordable for small and mid-sized businesses to have a solution that's an enterprise level solution. Absolutely. So, if you would like, Dave will come out and do a free backup audit for you. Look at what you have, help you figure out what makes sense. Does your current solution meet your business needs, and that's okay to stick with what you have, or which one of the solutions makes the most sense? And we have these really sophisticated gift cards. We left them back at the office.
Rich left them back down.
That Rich, I wasn't going to say that. Rich.
No.
All right, so we'll give you a 20 for the first 2 people that sign up. We'll give you a $25 Isaac's gift card. Because we know you enjoyed your Isaac's lunch today, and we want to make sure that you support our client Isaac's Deli as much as possible. Other questions that you all have?
Well, just again, based on our experience, the one thing that was invaluable to us was the monitoring in the evening, so that on a Sunday, where we would have come in Monday morning and recognized that we were down. Can you kind of talk about that additional expense, but that additional service of also having someone, especially if you're open, 8 to 8, but from 8 p.m. until 8 a.m., who's minding the store?
Yeah, we do full IT services, is what Peter's talking about. So we actually monitor their network 24/7. So we actually knew the Exchange server had a problem before he did, and then we're able to get the Cirrus running as an Exchange server. So if you need full IT support, even with internal guys, we can be an outsourced kind of thing, or even just help you with some modern tools.
Are there other things can you have if your server goes down, that it sends an email to you or something? Are there other?
Oh, there's lots of alerting tools.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Super. Other questions if y'all have? Well, thank you so much for spending your lunch hour with us. Hopefully you learned a little bit, or maybe I just terrified you, I'm not sure. Anything really bad. Great, have a great rest of your day, thank you so much. Oh, I'm not so sure, we have, I have certificate of completions that the ABC does. So Rich will hand you your certificate. And we also have, if you wouldn't mind filling out an evaluation form, ABC wants to know that you did a good job, or didn't do a good job, however you want to look at it. And if you wouldn't mind filling that out for ABC, that's helpful for them.